Thank you, POTUS. What did you notice? A lack of panic. A lack of panic. Exactly what we voted for. Yes. Calm, steady. Oh, my God. Can I just say, because I know Rachel Maddow's daddy listens every day, I think he passed along the calm down message to Rachel, who did a fantastic job last night saying calm down, for God's sakes. This coverage is always so overwrought. And she was saying for the first time in, 30, 40 years, the party in the White House always loses New Jersey and Virginia. We won New Jersey, so Biden actually bucked the trend, but you won't see mainstream media coverage like that anywhere.
Of course.
It's just chaos and panic and dogs and cats living together. And right? He said the obvious, right? Doug, I'm going to call you Doug May now. It's Brian May from Queen.
That's how he responds to everything
Meets
now.
Doug the neighbor. Okay. Right? But okay. I thought I was taking crazy pills. Thank you, Rachel. That was a fantastic summation of right. But they went back to every president, 40 years. This is nothing unusual. She said they're reporting it like it's unexpected. When yes, of course it would have helped to have had this legislation passed, but it's just anyway. He said, I was running against Trump. That is one thing we talked about yesterday. Is Trump? I think a lot of our friends may be right that he's not running. He's just grifting as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think that it is true about not running against Trump. But at any rate, we will talk to Dr. Erwin Redlener, Bill Press, and Dana Goldberg.
The crawfish canceled on us this morning. He's on a train.
How dare he? I always picture him like Valley of the Dolls on the train. Is that wrong?
I'm trying to remember the exact reference now.
Okay. We'll talk to him next week. I'm going to guess he is also not panicking.
He seemed quite calm.
Yes, good. Cavi and Schroff tweeted Democrat Phil Murphy wins re-election as governor of New Jersey, the first Democrat to do so since 1977. The victory pushes back against media narratives that results in Virginia spell doom for Democrats in elections that are a year away. Yes. So, okay. I have so many thoughts ricocheting, Travis, about all of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But I just think this is part of the media narrative that's got us here. That everything is depicted as, chaos and incompetence and whatever, when this is the normal process of bills. This is, somebody was saying, is so much bigger than ACA. ACA was just healthcare. This is a transformational, once in a generation, FDR-like legislation. So am I as frustrated as Manchin and Sinema as anybody? Yes. But, as we were talking about, when we talked about the ACA, people were like, why did we start with single payer? We should have been negotiating for him. And now we're like, oh, you're negotiating too much. Now there's too much negotiating in public. Yeah. And it's taking too long. It's like, okay, by the way, don't you think it's worth waiting for that they put paid family leave back in and got prescription drug pricing?
Yes.
Those are only enormous things. Yes, Brian May from Queen.
Do you think there would have been a new deal if there had been cable news?
No. Thank you, Brian May from Queen. Look at...
The 24-hour news cycle is ruining everything.
He is a... Thank you. A lot of people... Jim, actually one of the smartest kids in class in Wisconsin, wrote, Steph, has anyone tried to calculate how many percentage points a Democratic candidate could gain in a presidential, congressional, or gubernatorial race if there were no Fox News? Thank you. I asked this because I live in a mostly rural congressional district where it's a safe bet that most people here get their news only from Fox. In other words, 24/7, 365, they get a cartoon view of the world that continually vilifies Democrats as a whole, always pointing blame at them, and kudos to Republicans. Mm-hmm. This displaces anything factual they might have learned from another source. It makes me wonder if Democratic canvassers can actually reach voters in a lasting way when, with one conversation at the front door, if that voter then plunks themselves down in front of Fox News again and essentially wipes away that conversation. I know this sounds like an oversimplification, but in these last 25 years, did it ever occur to the Democratic Party leadership that they really need to do something about the incessant lying of Fox News? Could Democrats really afford to write off the Fox News demographic? It seems a bit like fighting with one arm tied behind your back. I don't... Do you see how blue in the face I am?
Yeah.
Because it's how many years I've been saying, why do they not invest in progressive media infrastructure, right? Why am I in my basement, right? And people on Fox News are making millions and have this huge reach, because it is tough. Brian May from Queen, whatever you are, it's a fantastic point. You're great on bass or guitar, whatever it is you do. Travis, yes.
I was going to say, Dylan and I were having a conversation about this last night. Like, when are we going to be able to make a play for the rural voters? Right. And the problem is, rural voters, they don't have broadband. They most likely do not have cable. They're getting their news over the radio. They're in their trucks driving on the farm doing that.
Yeah.
So, again, it's that we're not in these places. So they are hearing this barrage. And what they're hearing on talk radio is probably 10 times worse than what Fox News is giving them.
And Rachel Maddow actually made this point. First of all, Joy Reid said about Youngkin, he found a way to launder a pretty racist trope, the idea that we cannot talk about America's history because it hurts my feelings. He's turned that into a campaign. Then Rachel said, well, to have Fox News Channel, our friends at the Fox News Channel, building their programming, particularly the primetime programming, around this for months. They're building a campaign platform for conservative candidates to run it everywhere, even though it's not actually taught anywhere, even though it's not a thing. There's nothing you could pay for in any campaign that would equal the kind of free help you get from that kind of conservative media, just fire hose on the issue. And that is true, right? Yeah. This is why all these interviews, these people going, I don't know what critical race theory is. I don't care for it, though. Right? I mean, that is a lot of misinformation on a giant platform. So, yeah.
And it's like, and again, like we said yesterday, how do you argue against something that's not real?
Right.
You have to
and then the problem is the rest of the mainstream media is so afraid of being called liberal that they go the other way in the both sides do-itism, as we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And, how that they don't portray anything that's in this bill, and that it's, to Democrats when 99% of Democrats, the vast majority of Americans, are for it.
Right.
And, it just becomes, Democrats are in disarray, they can't get anything done. And
they're more interested in covering a fight than actually covering the accomplishments and the context of the story.
His accomplishments are huge. We're 9 months in, and the shots in arms and checks in bank accounts it really was a historic achievement, with only 50 in the Senate and barely 50 because of Manchin and Sinema.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, somebody else picked up on this. Oliver said things won't get better until liberals move from the media needs to do a better job to we need to make our own media. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To your point, Brian May. Oh, he's just going to keep playing it every time I say
he was
Brian
ready.
May from
He had it
Queen.
ready.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. You don't need to play it.
I'm being judicious.
Okay, thank you. That was my idea that we play We Will Rock You. I was even thinking just the chords, not even the just.
I'll get the technical staff to work on that.
Okay, great. Thanks. That would be you. All right. Yes, Jeff said, I'd like to congratulate Virginia on selecting a governor who will make it 100% certain that critical race theory is not taught in schools where it is already not taught.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you on that towering achievement, Virginia.
Well done.
But the president said it best, right? Like, yes, it probably would help if we had gotten these bills done now before the race, but he was running against Trump.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is Trump is not here anymore. So it's we didn't have enough what we're running for because it wasn't done yet. Although I think, again, the mainstream media is not going to help us. So we have to keep trumpeting what's in the bill, because the mainstream media is just not, it is going to be detrimental, if
Something
anything.
I would say to that point, though, is that Terry McAuliffe should have had a plan for Virginia. He should not have been relying on something coming out of Washington to save his ass. He should have actually been telling.
Again, it is
That's not what we
Fox
heard,
News
though.
is a tough headwind to get through when that's your only news source. I mean, when I just tune over once in a while, I'm like, oh my God, this really is just some sort of alternative reality that is not. And so you can understand, though, people's brains that are only formed by that.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're over here going, I feel like Joe Biden has, and not just opinion, but as quantitatively, if you look at that, he's created more jobs in a month than Trump did in 4 years.
Yeah.
That there were 1% vaccinated. We're at 80% vaccinated. People got child tax credits. He cut childhood poverty in half. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? I mean, it's just, okay. A lot of great points on Twitter. Where do I start? Angry staffer said, and just like that, conservatives had confidence in elections again. It was almost like magic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the difference between the parties, too. They are a bunch of whiny little bitches.
When they win, they're fine.
Right. And meanwhile, here's the wait, hang on, where are we? Oh, yes, President Biden yesterday.
Yesterday reminded me of that one of the sacred rights we have is to be able to go out and cast our votes. And remember that we all have an obligation to accept the legitimacy of these elections. I was talking to Terry to congratulate him today. He got 600,000 more votes than any Democrat ever has gotten. We brought out every Democrat about there was, more votes than ever has been cast.
Thank you. John Harwood said, obviously, Youngkin has won now, but he said Biden becomes the 8th consecutive new president to see the opposition party win the Virginia governorship in his first year, following Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, and Trump. Do you ever remember this kind of disaster coverage? That's the end of Biden's presidency. It's the end of Democrats.
No.
I'm like, really? Because it seems like it happens every time. And in fact, it happens in New Jersey, too, which we won. I get it was narrower than we would have liked, but okay, a win's a win. Right, Eric Bollert said it's funny. When the GOP lost the White House by 7 million votes, lost Georgia, Arizona, then lost both Georgia runoffs, where was the pearl-clutching analysis about misjudging the nation's mood? Oh, God, I love Eric Bollert. Oh, by the way, Sam writes, worth noting that Virginia Democrats repealed voter ID, enacted automatic voter registration, no excuse mail-in voting, extended the ballot receipt deadline past Election Day, used executive action to get around lifetime ban for people with felonies. Turnout increased from 2017, and the Republicans won.
Yeah.
So are they going to, because I didn't hear anything. Suddenly it was just fair, because that was all the things that they're fighting against.
It'll be really
so are they going to repeal all that after they've won? Because...
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if they put any of these
How many times do we have to
integrity
say
laws.
letting people vote doesn't necessarily benefit one party or the other, right?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I said it's going to be really interesting to see if they feel the need to put in these voter integrity laws that they have done in Georgia and Texas and places where they're either in danger of losing or they have lost.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard a mainstream media ask one of them. Like, what happened to voter fraud? How did that magically disappear in Virginia because you win? But this is the difference in the parties. Whiny little bitches. People that believe in democracy. You choose. Ellie Mistal, who we love with the heat of 1,000 white hot suns, he said, meanwhile, I see this morning that some college-educated white women have gotten real salty about being lumped in with non-college white women. It's interesting, though, that women of color don't seem to need to go to college to figure out who the domestic terrorists are. Boom!
It's true.
It is true. We apologize to college-educated white women who are not non-college-educated Karens, who are the ones that actually us in Virginia and elsewhere. Mm-hmm. However, just saying, who's America's early warning system?
Black ladies, because they're all on it.
They know to go to college.
They pay attention.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Adam Schiff said, time for a reality check. Senate Republicans will never vote to protect voting rights. We have to stop waiting for the fever to break. It is time to end the filibuster, start legislating like our democracy is on the line, because it is. So I know it came as a great shock that despite Joe Manchin promising us all his Republican friends would vote for voting rights in the John Lewis Act, they did not. Only Lisa Murkowski.
We got one.
Right. Which we would need 9 more to make. Okay. So we need a carve out. We've got to, it's at least, I mean, I don't. Okay.
This is his compromise that he put together to get Republican votes.
Right.
And they're still turning their
backs on. He assured us if he writes it, they will all, if he does this with his hands, if he says John Lewis Act, but then he does this with his hands, then they'll all vote for it. Yeah. That was
Computer says no.
Incorrect.
Didn't work out that way.
By the way, George Takei says, are we supposed to just pretend that hundreds of conspiracy theorists didn't just gather in Dallas to see JFK Jr. reveal himself? The media needs to start to cover the kooks. They are in Congress now, too. The media needs to step it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
They sort of got caught unaware. It wasn't 7 people. Hundreds, I don't even know if it was over 1,000. It was a lot of people that are completely crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. We need the media needs. You don't cover that when there's thousands or hundreds, however many, in Dealey Plaza in the grassy knoll waiting for JFK Jr. to come back, and you don't cover the fact that possibly part of the Republican base might be completely,
But also, how do you cover that?
Woo-doo. I would like to see an anchor say woo-doo.
Yeah, exactly.
This just in, America, a large part of the Republican base is woo-doo. Banana bread. Mm-hmm. That's just me. I'm just spitballing, but you do it however you want.
You do you.
Yeah, you do you. 21 minutes after the hour, this portion.
Thank you.